Hello and welcome, I'm Dan Radford, the CTO here at Gas Productions, and you join us in a slightly blustery Kent on the day in which Sony has released version 3 of its firmware for the Sony BRC-AM7, which has got some killer features that have been requested by the whole of the community using them, and we're going to run through some of those today with a more in-depth review coming later on. So let's get cracking. So starting off with the first new feature, which is Optical Image Stabilisation. We've got a ball sports framing mode, we've got expanded auto framing, preset based tracking, SDI via an optical SFP+, and enhanced IP streaming. Well, today we're going to be focused on the optical image stabilisation and the expanded auto framing functions. So let's take a look at one of the first features, which is optical image stabilisation. Now, we've been crying out for this feature on these cameras ever since it was released, and you know what it's like if you're working in corporate events or any events as that might be. There's always vibration that travels through your camera riser or through the tripod as a result of footfall coming from people walking past. It might be people leaning on the camera riser, leaning on the surround by the camera riser, whatever it may be. Not having image optical stabilisation can be something that means the camera shot might not necessarily even be used during a live broadcast because critically it's moving around. Now thankfully Sony have done something about that with version 3, and now we're going to take a look at that optical image stabilisation in action. So in this test we've got two AM7s. We've got one running the firmware version 2 without optical image stabilisation, and we've got another AM7 running version 3 that does have image optical stabilisation. And as you can see now, with optical image stabilisation turned on, it makes a profound difference in how much movement there is in the image. This is going to be great for corporate events. So next up is the expanded auto framing controls. Now what we noticed using the BRC-AM7 with version 2 of the firmware is that it was fantastic at tracking subjects. However, there were some instances where a slight movement to the left or right could result in the camera quite aggressively moving to try and auto frame that subject. And we always thought it'd be lovely if there was a way in which you could nuance that. Well, now you can. In the BRC-AM7's new web UI interface, you'll see there are several controls in a new section which enable you to alter the sensitivity and the speed of the pan, the tilt and the zoom. There's also a drop-down box there which enables you to select whether or not you're controlling the pan, tilt, or the pan, tilt and zoom when you change those functions. This enables you to have a much greater control over the way in which your camera is auto-tracking your subject. So that gives you an overview of the features that are now available with version 3 of the firmware for the Sony BRC-AM7, and we can't wait to start bringing these features to all of our clients across all of the events that we've got coming up across the rest of the year. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.